What's up, my people? Bless up and welcome back to the Daily Scoop, where we break down the biggest conversation happening in dancehall and the Jamaican music. If this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell, and of course, leave your thoughts in the comments because today we have a serious dancehall discussion on our hands. Massicka just had a major night at the Barclay Center in Brooklyn, and instead of the conversation being only about his performance, the internet has once again turned the spotlight towards one of the biggest debates in dancehall, Massicka versus Vybz Kartel. And trust me, people, this one has fans talking. A post connected to Vybz Kartel through Kyro started circulating around social media, and the reaction from fans on both sides was immediate. Some Gaza supporters took it as a reminder of Vybz Cartel dominance. Some of Massicka supporters look at it completely different. And then there were people saying, hold on, why are we turning every major dancehall accomplishment into a competition? That is the question we are going to explore today. Because when you look at everything that has happened in dancehall during 2026, from Massicka recent momentum, Vybz Cartel album which is God Is Time, the conversation around Alkaline, Bounty Killer, Buju Banton and the younger generation, there is a much bigger story developing. So let us just get straight into it. Let us start off with the main event. Massicka performed at the Barclay Center, and based on the footage and reaction coming out of the venue, the place had a serious amount of energy. Now, whenever a Jamaican artist perform at a major international arena, I think we have to appreciate what that means, because this is not just about one artist, it is about dancehall overall. A Jamaican artist walking onto a major stage in Brooklyn and pulling a significant audience is something the entire genre can benefit from. But of course, we know how social media works. The moment pictures and videos start to circulate, people began comparing things. So, my question is, how many people were there? Was the ticket sold out, and who drew more? How does this compare to Vybz Cartel? How does Alkaline and Massicka compare together? And before you know it, we are no longer discussing the performance, we are discussing numbers, the camps and fan base. That is just the reality of modern dancehall conversation. Now, let's talk about the post that helped ignite another round of debate. A post connected to Kyro, who is associated with Vybz Cartel, began circulating featuring imagery connected to Vybz Cartel own Barclay Center performance. The message behind the post was interpreted by many people as a reminder of levels and experience. And once that hit social media, people immediately started picking sides. Some fans basically said don't compare the two, while other people is saying Massicka deserves his respect. And then you had people who are saying why can't we celebrate both of them? That is where I think this discussion becomes interesting, because there is a difference between comparison and competition. Dancehall fans are naturally going to compare artists. That's nothing new, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the artists themselves do not necessarily have to be fighting every time their names appear in the same conversation. Sometimes fans create the rivalry bigger than the artists do. And then there was another detail that caught attention, which was Vybz Cartel liking the post. Now, a like on social media can mean many things. It could simply mean the artist saw the post and appreciate it. It could be support for the message. It could be recognition of his own history at the venue. Or it could simply be a social media interaction. But when fans see something like that, they are going to analyze it, and that is the world we live in. One like can create hundreds of comments. One picture can start an argument. One caption can turn into a full-blown dancehall debate. And that is exactly what happened. The phrase attached to the conversation about level also got fans talking. And honestly, the idea of level is something that has always existed in dancehall. Every generation has its giant. Every era has its champion. Every dancehall artist has a period where they dominate. Vybz Kartel has already established an enormous legacy. There is no need to pretend otherwise. He has influenced generation of artists and fans. His songwriting style, his language, approach to dancehall have left a major mark on the culture. So when fans say Vybz Kartel is on another level, they are usually speaking from the perspective of his overall career and his legacy. But here is the other side. Massicka is still writing his story, and you cannot judge the final chapter of somebody's career while they are still in the middle of the book. Massicka is not Vybz Kartel. He is not supposed to be, and he does not need to duplicate Kartel career. Massicka has his own sound, his own style, his own audience, and his own international ambition. And if the younger generation respond to his music, that's important because the future of dancehall depends on artists being able to create their own identities. You don't want everybody sounding like the previous generation. You want inspiration, but you also want evaluation. That's how genres survive. And speaking of Massicka supporters, his fan base has definitely been active. The crocodile symbol has become associated with Massicka supporters, and social media has given that fan base a place to organize, defend, and promote the artist. We saw the aftermath of Barclay Center performance. Some supporters were celebrating, some were responding to criticism, some were arguing against people who said Massicka could not compete with the biggest names in dancehall, and some were simply saying, give the man his credit. I think that last part is important because you don't have to believe Massicka is the biggest dancehall artist of all time to acknowledge that he had a significant night. You can respect Vybz Kartel and still give Massicka his flowers. You can support Alkaline and still congratulate Massicka. You can love Bounty Killer Buju Banton and still celebrate a younger artist. That is called being a fan of the music. Now, let's take a closer look at the bigger picture because there was a point when some people questioned what Massicka 2026 would look like. After the issues surrounding his clash with Tammy Lee, there were people questioning where Massicka would go next. Some people felt his momentum has slowed down. Some people wonder what next major would be. But then the music started coming, and as the year progressed, the conversation began to change. Massicka started getting more attention, his songs were generating reactions, the audience became more active, and then came the major performances. This is why timing matters in entertainment because an artist can go through a period where people are not talking about them as much. Then one song changes the conversation. One performance changes the conversation, one album changes the conversation, and suddenly everybody is watching again. One of the moments that helped change the conversation around Massicka was his involvement with the Ilan Gully rhythm. The reaction to his song helped remind people that Massicka still had the ability to create a moment, and that is what artists need. You need records that people want to talk about. You need performances that people want to share. You want songs that move beyond your core fan base. And you need that momentum because the music business is not only about talent, it is also about timing. But while Massicka was building his momentum, another major event happened. Vybz Kartel released God and Time. And because we are talking about Vybz Kartel naturally, the project became a part of the dancehall conversation. The album brought attention back to Kartel music, his legacy, and his ability to generate discussion. And this is where the 2026 dancehall conversation become very interesting. You have an established superstar with a huge legacy, and you have a younger generation just trying to establish themselves internationally. That is a fascinating dynamic. Then you have the chart discussion. Vybz Kartel God and Time reportedly made an impact on the Billboard Reggae album chart, and that became another talking point for fans. Chart numbers are important because they provide one measurable way to see how music is performing, but chart does not tell the entire story. Streaming numbers don't tell the entire story, and concert attendance definitely don't tell the entire story either. You need to look at all of them together. An artist dominates streaming but struggle to sell concert tickets. Another artist can have a smaller streaming presence but at the same time have a very dedicated live audience. Another artist can dominate social media. Another can have a catalog that continues generating revenue years later. The music business has many different measures. Now, we have a question. Who is the winning dancehall artist in 2026? Well, that's not as simple as choosing one person. If we are talking about legacy, Cartel has a huge advantage. And if we're talking about the current generation and international growth, Massicka is making a strong case for himself. And then if we're talking about the artists who maintain powerful fan base, we're talking about Alkaline there. Then you have veterans like Buntikil and Buju Banton who continue to carry enormous respect within Jamaican music. So perhaps the better question is not who is winning. Maybe the better question could be which artists are making the biggest move right now, and Massicka definitely deserves to be a part of that conversation. Everybody is asking the question, should Massicka be compared to Cartel? Personally, I think the comparison needs context. If you are asking who has a greater overall dancehall legacy, that is a different conversation. If you are asking who is making a strong impact among the younger generation right now, that's another conversation. If you are asking who has the bigger historical fan movement, that's another conversation. You have to define the category before declaring a winner. Otherwise, we are just arguing in circles. So, people, that's where we are right now, and that's where I am going to leave it for today. But my question to you is, do you think Massicka deserve more respect after the Barclay Center performance? Do you think fans are taking the Vybz Kartel versus Massicka comparison too serious? Let me know in the comment section. And if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the Daily Scoop, turn on your notification, and share this video with somebody who always has an opinion about dancehall. Bless up yourself, stay safe, and respect to everybody supporting the Jamaican music. See you in the next one.